Kyle lived in a small village where life passed in complete peace. The people of the village were busy with their work and spent time together, living their lives every day. But Kyle's heart always desired something more. Every night he would have a strange dream in which there was a city, Ardennis, that only shone in the moonlight. The streets of the city were silent, and an old voice echoed through the air, lasting for a long time. One night, as Kyle closed his eyes, the voice grew louder. The voice said, "Kyle, your time has come. Your journey will begin." Kyle's sleep was disturbed, and he woke up. The dream was still bothering him. Was it really just a dream, or was it a sign of something larger? Kyle couldn't understand, but his heart told him that something big was about to happen. Morning came, and Kyle shared his dream with his mother, Ilara. Ilara, who had hidden the pain and secrets of her past, began to search for old things after hearing Kyle's words. Those old things revealed the family's deep secrets. Ilara showed Kyle an old map, one that led to a city, Ardennis. Ilara said, "This map shows the way of your journey. You must walk the path of your dream." Kyle thought, if these dreams are real, then I will definitely follow this journey. After speaking with his mother, Kyle began his journey. The first step, which took him toward Ardennis, was a bit difficult. Along the way, Kyle had to pass through a large, wild jungle. Strange sounds echoed from the jungle as if something was hidden inside. Kyle gathered his courage and traveled through the heart of the jungle. He thought, this jungle could be dangerous, but I will overcome everything for my dream. Within the jungle, Kyle saw a strange light. Suddenly, a monstrous creature appeared, known as Duskling. Its face was so terrifying that Kyle was almost stunned. Kyle's sleep, his past life, and the power of his dream all came together. The Duskling surrounded Kyle with its dark wings, but Kyle felt an inner power rise within him. He wanted to overcome his fears and turn his dream into reality. Kyle felt a light-like strength in his hands and began to battle the Duskling. Every wound he took made him stronger. After some time, Kyle defeated the Duskling and took the next step on his path. On his journey, Kyle met a girl named Lyra. Lyra was a girl who hid her pain within. There was deep sorrow in her eyes, but a smile on her face. At first, it was difficult for Lyra to walk alongside Kyle, but when Kyle spoke about his journey, she began to understand her own pain. Kyle's journey with Lyra was now different. Their stories were intertwined, and they started to understand each other with every step they took. While traveling toward Ardennis, Kyle and Lyra found an ancient book that explained the true secrets of the city. Kyle opened the book, and it said, "The true guardian of the city will be the one who understands their real power." Kyle realized that he was the real guardian of the city. His power was within him, and by using it, he could free the city. One day, Kyle asked Lyra about her past. Lyra opened up to him about the pain she had endured. She had lost her family, her friends. Every memory made tears flow from her eyes. Kyle said, "Lyra, I am with you. It will always be my responsibility to face your pain." Lyra wiped her tears and said, "I want to walk this journey with you, Kyle. You have shown me my strength." Kyle's journey reached its destination. In the heart of Ardennis, a great war awaited. Kyle became the judge of the city's freedom. He understood his true strength and stepped into the battle. This war wasn't just about showing power. It was about realizing thoughts and emotions. During the battle, Kyle was joined by Lyra. Together, they understood their inner strength and fought to free the city. The city's old guardians, who had once sought true power, now understood Kyle's strength. Ardennis was free, thanks to Kyle. He had turned his dream into reality and used his power to free the city. The people of the city were amazed to see Kyle, but they recognized his strength. Ardennis had now been won by its true guardian, Kyle. After Ardennis was freed, the people gathered around Kyle and Lyra. Every face shone with new hope, but there was also an odd silence. The people were ready to celebrate, but they didn't know how to thank their new guardian. An elderly man, once the city's historian, approached Kyle and said, "Your courage and strength have brought this city to a new turn. You are an example, Kyle." Lyra, who had stood by Kyle's side, quietly said, "Kyle, you didn't just chase a dream, you fulfilled everyone's dream." Kyle looked at the city once again and thought, this is just the beginning. There are still many journeys to come. After the city was freed, Lyra began to find her own new identity. She said to Kyle, "I had always thought that my life was full of sorrow and loss, but you have shown me a new path. Perhaps it's time for me to find a new life for myself." Kyle smiled and replied, "Lyra, your journey wasn't meant to end here. You supported me and you showed me understanding. Now, you should follow your dreams." Lyra felt a new passion rise within her. She thought about starting a new journey in a new city, but her bond with Kyle had become strong and unbreakable. Kyle and Lyra thought that the city was completely free, but there was still a hidden darkness. Some corners of the city still felt silent and strange. One day, Kyle met a little girl who told him about an old cave. "There is something there that no one has found yet. Maybe you should go there," the girl said. Kyle and Lyra decided to uncover the mystery of the cave. When they reached it, they discovered another secret connected to the city's ancient story. Inside the cave, Kyle and Lyra found an ancient statue. The statue was of an old god named Ichor. Lyra said, "This god was part of the city's legends. Does this have any meaning?" Kyle looked at the statue and felt that his dream was still incomplete. Beneath the statue was an old chest containing another map. This map showed places around the city that they hadn't yet discovered. Kyle said, "This journey isn't over yet. We need to follow this map." Following the map, Kyle and Lyra embarked on a new journey. The map led them to a place covered in snow where an old fort stood. This fort was part of an ancient civilization that had once been connected to Ardennis. Inside the fort, they discovered another secret, an old script that revealed that the true Guardian's journey would only end when they fully understood their inner strength and wisdom. Kyle felt an unusual energy within him. He thought, "The journey is leading me to discover my true self." Lyra, who had been with Kyle all this time, said, "Kyle, your journey is now yours. I feel like it's time for me to find my own world." Kyle smiled and replied, "Lyra, your courage and support will always stay with me. You are a part of my journey and you always will be." They bid each other farewell and parted ways. Lyra began her new dream, and Kyle continued to move forward on his journey. Kyle reached the snowy place known as the Frozen Fortress. The fort was part of an ancient legend where people said the true power of the world was hidden. Inside the fort, the walls were made of ice, and a strange chill reached Kyle's heart. Kyle stepped inside and saw a broken throne in the middle of a large hall. Beside the throne was an ancient book written about the fort's guardian. The book said, "Only those who are pure of heart can gain the power of this fort, but first they must face the guardian." Kyle realized that another challenge awaited him. As Kyle took another step forward inside the fort, he saw an ice sculpture taking the shape of a guardian. The guardian's name was Frostmourne, and Its face looked like a mirror of the ice's darkness. Frostmourne said, "To claim this power, you must prove that you have the strength to control the frozen heart of the world." Kyle raised his sword and said, "I do not fear darkness. I will free this heart." The battle with Frostmourne was fierce. The Guardian summoned the coldest winds and freezing storms, but Kyle fought with all his strength, his determination, unwavering. Every time he felt cold, he focused on his inner light. Finally, Kyle defeated Frostmourne and placed his hand on the heart of the frozen world. A warm light spread throughout the fort, melting the ice. As the light spread, Kyle felt a great power surge through him. He had mastered the frozen heart, and with it, he could now bring peace to Ardennis once and for all. Kyle returned to Ardennis, where he shared his newfound power with the people. The city was now truly free, and peace spread like a warm breeze. But Kyle knew that his journey was still not complete. He had conquered many challenges, but there was always more to discover about himself and the world around him. Kyle stood at the center of the city and looked out over the horizon. He had conquered many challenges, but there was one thing he knew: the true Guardian's path never ends. He whispered to himself, "Every journey begins with a dream, and every dream has a new path to follow." As the sun set over the city of Ardennis, Kale knew that the adventure was far from over. After Kale had returned to Ardennis, he realized that his journey was far from over. The power he had discovered within himself had opened his eyes to new horizons, yet the world was vast, and mysteries still lay hidden beyond the known borders of Ardennis. He stood at the edge of the city, looking toward the unknown lands that stretched before him. He knew that the true purpose of his life was not to remain stagnant, but to seek the truths hidden in the world. And so he decided to venture out again. Kyle and Lyra set out once more, guided by the old map that had now become more than just a tool. It had become a symbol of their connection. The map led them to a forgotten city hidden deep in a valley surrounded by mountains. It was a place that had long been abandoned, and no one spoke of it. As they entered the ruins, strange echoes filled the air. The city seemed to speak to them, as if trying to tell its story. Lyra whispered, "There's something about this place, something ancient." Kyle nodded. "We need to uncover the secrets of this city. It's part of our journey." As Kale and Lyra explored the forgotten city, they discovered the remnants of an ancient civilization. The walls were covered in intricate carvings that depicted people and creatures from another time. But what caught their attention was a stone tablet in the center of the city, engraved with symbols no one could understand. Suddenly, they were surrounded by shadows. Figures materialized from the darkness, ghostly beings who once lived in the city. They did not speak, but communicated through a haunting presence. Kyle stepped forward. "We seek knowledge, not conflict. Show us your story." The figures slowly faded, leaving behind a glowing orb in the middle of the city. As Kyle touched it, visions filled his mind. He saw the history of the forgotten city, the rise and fall of its people, and how they had once been guardians of an ancient power. Lyra, standing beside him, felt the weight of the city's sorrow. These people were protectors, but they were betrayed. They became the guardians of a forgotten power, lost to time. Kyle, his heart heavy with understanding, knew that this was part of his destiny. To truly understand his purpose, he had to uncover the lost power of this city. The orb led them to a hidden temple deep within the city. Inside, they found a series of trials, each more challenging than the last. Kyle and Lyra had to prove their strength, wisdom, and courage to unlock the secrets of the temple. The first trial tested their strength, pitting them against monstrous creatures that had once protected the temple. The second trial tested their wisdom as they had to solve ancient puzzles. The final trial was a test of their hearts, forcing them to confront their deepest fears. Through perseverance and unity, Kyle and Lyra completed the trials, unlocking the secrets of the ancient civilization. At the heart of the temple, Kyle and Lyra found the source of the lost power, a crystal that pulsed with immense energy. Kyle reached out to touch it, and a wave of power surged through him, filling him with knowledge and strength beyond measure. Lyra looked at Kyle, fear and awe in her eyes. This power, it's unlike anything I've ever seen. Kyle's voice was steady. It is the power of the Guardians, and it is now mine to protect. But with this new power came a heavy responsibility. Kyle knew that he had to use it wisely or risk repeating the mistakes of the past. As Kyle and Lyra left the Forgotten City, they faced a difficult choice. The power Kyle had gained was immense, but it also came with a price. The world around them was teetering on the edge of chaos, and the power of the Guardians could either save it or destroy it. Lyra turned to Kyle. What will you do with this power? Kyle gazed at the horizon, his mind heavy with the weight of the decision. I will protect this world, but I will do it in a way that ensures its future, not its destruction. I will not make the same mistakes as the Guardians of the past. As Kyle and Lyra traveled back to Ardennis, they sensed that the world was changing. Dark forces were gathering, and an ancient enemy was awakening. The shadows that had once been forgotten were now returning, more powerful than before. Kyle knew that this was a challenge unlike any he had faced. He was not just a guardian now, he was the protector of the entire world. The battle ahead would be fierce, and Kyle's strength would be tested like never before. Part 29. The final confrontation, the day of reckoning, arrived. The shadows had gathered at the borders of Ardennis, and Kyle stood ready to face them. Lyra stood by his side, her own strength now sharpened by their journey together. The air was thick with tension as Kyle stepped forward to confront the dark force that threatened to engulf the world. The enemy, a dark sorcerer who had once been a guardian, had returned with the intent to claim the power for himself. Kyle and the sorcerer clashed, their powers colliding in a storm of light and darkness. The battle raged for hours, with neither side gaining an advantage. But in the end, Kyle's heart, his belief in protecting the world, was stronger than the sorcerer's thirst for power. With one final strike, Kyle defeated the sorcerer, and the shadows were banished. With the darkness gone, peace returned to Ardennis. Kyle and Lyra stood together, watching as the sun rose over the city they had saved. Their journey had come to an end, but they knew that the world would continue to change. Kyle turned to Lyra. Our story doesn't end here. There is always more to discover, more to protect. Lyra smiled. And we will face it together, as we always have. As the sun rose higher, Kyle and Lyra walked toward the horizon, ready for whatever challenges the future would bring. Their journey was far from over, but for now, they had earned their peace.